Will GTA 6 be delayed? And what does Rockstar hiring for a new role in Lincoln actually mean? And how does this all affect the release date of GTA 6? So over the past few months, of course, we've covered the hotly debated topic of when GTA 6 will actually be released. But firstly, we need to get an understanding of the difference between calendar years and fiscal years. Hopefully this little animation I've made explains it a bit better than maybe I've explained it in previous videos. As you can see, we have calendar years listed here. But if we zoom in to 2024 and 2025, we can see the calendar months within those years. So we've got 2024 and 2025. But fiscal years, which are essentially used for tax purposes for corporations, are April until March. So we can see fiscal 25 here and fiscal 26 here. Now we know that Rockstar is aiming for a 2025 release window due to that really depressing statement at the end of the trailer and the press release that shortly followed. But here's where things get really interesting. Last year, Take-Two Interactive, Rockstar's parent company, stated that they're expecting $8 billion worth of net bookings in fiscal 25. On their last investor call, they stated that this would be $7 billion instead. And this had a lot of people in the GTA community quite upset, thinking that we wouldn't get GTA 6 in early 2025, and that's understandable. But it's also important to remember that Take-Two's current earnings are just over $5 billion. And for the last few quarters, they have experienced a decline in net bookings due to other Take-Two Interactive properties not performing as well as expected. So there aren't any signs to say that Take-Two have anything else going on that's going to increase these net bookings. So between April this year and March next year, they're somehow magically going to find an extra $2 billion. Now some people may say that this extra $2 billion could come from a newly acquired business, Zynga. But Zynga is also another company that Take-Two Interactive have acquired that have also experienced losses. Now I've seen some conflicting reports, people saying that pre-orders don't count towards net bookings until the game is delivered. However, if someone pre-orders a collector's edition, and this collector's edition maybe has a poster, a t-shirt, or a physical item attached to it, or even a redeemable item that allows them to download some additional DLC for GTA 5 for example, these figures are recorded in the net bookings because goods have exchanged hands for that pre-order fee. However, I am also very hesitant to believe that there will be $2 billion worth of pre-orders for GTA 6, or even $500 million for that matter. I think it's very likely that within this small window here is where we'll see the release for GTA 6. It's also important to remember that GTA 5 was supposed to come out in early 2013, but it was delayed. GTA 4 also came out in early 2008. The September release for GTA 5 wasn't intentional. That was just because they were behind in development. Then we have to talk about the elephant in the room. GTA 6 is supposed to be a Bonnie and Clyde inspired love story. Now what date in the calendar is really important for love stories? The 14th of February, which is Valentine's Day. Now in 2025, Valentine's Day falls on a very special day for gaming, a Friday. Games releasing on a Friday are perfect for games developers because people finish school, finish work, and they have 2 full days and Friday evening to play the game and enjoy the game. This is where people aren't at school, they're not at work, and this is the perfect opportunity for people to indulge in what Rockstar's new creation is. But now we need to talk about the potential delays and Rockstar's new job list. But something that you shouldn't delay is your privacy online. How good was that for a segue? Gaming online can be invasive. Opening yourself up to external networks can be dangerous whether you're browsing online or whether you're gaming online. But sometimes people are hesitant to use VPNs because there's a stigma around it. A lot of people seem to think that VPNs will slow down your internet connection to a drastic degree. But with today's video sponsor Private Internet Access, this is a problem of the past. Private Internet Access allows you to change your location to one of their 91 countries and 50 US states. Now, if you're a gamer in the US, having a localized state where you can ping your location to whilst gaming is really important because you're reducing that ping time. This not only allows faster internet speeds and complete privacy, but it also allows you to access geo-locked content and DLC. Some games developers will make DLC only available in certain countries, whether that's due to country restrictions. Some DLC on some games is geo-locked to certain locations. Now, an extended benefit is also that one subscription works on all of your devices at home. You don't need additional subscriptions to make this work on your phone as well as your laptop or your computer. This can work on any of your devices, whether it's Android, Apple, Linux, it works on everything. So using my link down below, you can save yourself 83% off, which is only $2.03 a month. And you also get 4 months completely free. I use private internet access on every single one of my devices. Of course, I like to be anonymous, it's very obvious. And having that peace of mind that no one can grab my IP address by sending me dodgy links or anything honestly makes me doing this so much easier. It's such a cool tool at such an affordable price. Click the link down below to go and check them out, and of course it supports the channel when you do so. Now the next thing we need to talk about is this job role that Rockstar listed for a Russian QA tester. Now this is quite controversial because I've seen so many split opinions on this, and I'd hopefully like to give a little bit of clarity on the situation so you guys can understand how irrelevant and also maybe how relevant this is. So the job listing is for a localization tester, Russian speaking, for a fixed 12-month term. Now there's a few things to note here, and a lot of people are saying this means that the game is in its final stages and it's going to be coming out at the start of 2025. I think it is coming out at the start of 2025, but I don't think that this job listing confirms that. Using the Wayback Archive and looking on a few websites online, I could find job listings for localization testers for other games and some of Rockstar's own titles 2 years in advance to a game actually being released. Usually localization testers come in when all of the audio and dialogue for the game has been done. The primary purpose is for them to understand the script in their language, maybe translate it, correct any incorrect translations. This doesn't really tell us dramatically how far into the process Rockstar are. The only thing this really does tell us is the majority of all the voice lines and the main character dialogue is all complete. It's also worth noting that localization testers don't necessarily play a final game. They may not even play the game at all. They may just be played audio dialogue from the game with annotations on screen to decide whether it's correct or incorrect. And there's one more thing that we have to talk about here is due to the current world circumstances, I don't think the game's going to be distributed in Russia. Due to the sanctions that are currently in place on Russia, a lot of companies aren't legally allowed to supply products into Russia. So I don't think this game is going to be available in the Russian market yet. I think this is Rockstar going, well, we'll have it ready in case there's people that speak Russian in other countries that would like to play the game. I don't think this is telling us about distribution of the game into Russia. Now, of course, I could be wrong about this. There's so many different ways that this can or can't be done. So this isn't really saying anything either way, but it's just worth noting that certain sanctions that are currently placed on Russia may prevent this game from being distributed to Russia at all. And looking at the job listing, it lists all the responsibilities of this person. So to provide developer support and localization consultation to all external development and publishing teams, provide consultation during internationalization to aid with front selection, character support, texture review, UI design and prototyping. So that's mainly to do with like the pause menu, the menus within the game, maybe the phone in the game will have to be translated to Russian as well. Ensure that localized first-party terminology is compliant with applicable naming conventions and brand guidelines. Perform ad hoc translations where necessary. Required skills, the ability to work well under pressure and adhere to strict guidelines when necessary. That's something that all Rockstar employees are feeling right now. Now, the final thing that could cause delays, and I've mentioned this in a fair few videos now, but of course Rockstar employees are currently kicking off that some of their complete remote workers that live miles away from Rockstar are now being asked to come into the office 5 days a week. Some of these employees were employed purely on work from home contracts to begin with back in like 2018, 2019. So they're basically being told they've got to come into the office, they can't work from home anymore, even though a vast number of Rockstar employees do just work from home, and they've always worked from home. They've never been part-time in the office or anything like that. They've always been 5 days a week at home. Of course, there's some employees that were 3 days a week in the office, now it's 5 days a week in the office. And I think it's also important to talk about why they were 3 days in the office, mainly because those 3 days in the office weren't 9 to 5. Those hours were extremely flexible on potentially Rockstar's part, where the teams would have conference calls late in the evening and they would be in the office, not that they had to be, but in theory they were in the office for up to 12 hours a day. So that's why the work from home mandate was introduced, to make it a bit more flexible. Now, of course, I understand why Rockstar want the 5 days a week due to security concerns, and also having everyone in the office will increase productivity to an extent. But at the same time, the first leak that happened in 2022 was because someone hacked their messaging platform, which could have happened from anywhere. And the second big leak was obviously Aaron Garbett, which is one of the senior people, one of the directors in Rockstar. So none of the thousands of employees really caused those leaks. But I can also understand from an employee's point of view that being expected in the next 6 weeks to potentially move house, pull their kids out of school, tell their partners that they need to get a new job or something just to move locally to a studio can also be a bit contentious. But we'll have to see how this plays out. I know that Rockstar employees at the moment aren't particularly happy for the most part. It all depends how this whole situation's handled. I think that this whole disruption in the process could slow down development a little bit in the short term, depending what the result is, whether they agree to do part work from home, part in the office, or whether, you know, there's so many different variables here that there's no point even speculating how this is going to result, but it could potentially cause delays and issues with that relationship between Rockstar and their employees. I'm not saying what's right and what's wrong, I'm just saying it's a factor to consider in this release cycle. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the side effects of the game getting delayed if it is. For example, if production does slow down and the processes within Rockstar aren't able to meet an early 2025 deadline, and looking at the projections from Take-Two Interactive, it does look like they are pushing for early next year. The actual side effect of them not meeting that deadline isn't just, oh, the game's delayed. It could cause investors to pull out. After the last earnings call, Take-Two Interactive stock price fell by 10%, and I have a feeling if the game's delayed, that could cause a load of investors to potentially pull out. Not that it's going to cause a massive issue for the game, but once again, if like 20% of investors pull out, that could be a problem. So there's so many different things and different factors that can determine whether the game's delayed on a social level, on a corporate level, and on a personal relationships between employees and the employer. There's a lot of factors to consider. In my personal opinion, I think it's going to be early 2025. I don't think we're going to get a delay because the stakes are so high. This game, including marketing costs and all that stuff, is going to cost anywhere between $1 to $2 billion to make the game. There's so much on the line for Rockstar and Take-Two. I feel like the game will somehow be ready in early 2025. But of course, Rockstar aren't scared to implement a delay when it means making the game better. A massive thank you to Private Internet Access for sponsoring today's video. Their links are all down below, and a massive thank you to all of you watching and all of the channel members listed up here. Your support is massively appreciated, and it allows me to keep up this pace of getting videos out every single day. So if you did enjoy today's video, please consider tapping that subscribe button and turning on post notifications so you get notified when I upload a new video. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.